Thank you.
Should I restart or do we just start recording?
You could restart.
Restart? Okay, start from the top. So this is the January 18th, 2023 meeting of Albany Board of Review. So the hearing is being held via video conference call at the following location: New York State Department of State, 1 Commerce Plaza, 99 Washington Ave, Conference Room 505, Albany, New York 12210. So the time is now still 9:25 a.m. and the hearing is officially open. So the members of the board are Jackie Coons on my left, Andy Ellis, Laura Ryder, and Jerry Binger. My name is David Brownwell. I'm the chairman for today. And then from the Department of State, you've heard him as Dan Farrelly. So we will hear the scheduled the petitions today. When you speak, do please address the board and give your name again for the record and your title so that our court reporter can have all the information requested. Please speak clearly and try your best not to talk over one another for accurate recording. Again, we may have to stop time to time to consult with our technical staff and each other as we go through this. In making comments to the board, please do provide a descriptive narrative on matters referring to your exhibits to enable the court reporter to enter these into the record. So we're going to jump right into it, into our first case and petition for today. It's in the matter of petition number 2022-0603. And the petitioner is Greenman Peterson, Inc. And I believe Craig Tripp, you're here representing that. I'll introduce the case and then I'll allow you to present your case. So the petition pertains to the construction of an air-supported dome, assembly, occupancy A3, indoor sports with spectator seating, construction type 2B, non-combustible, unprotected, construction of 1 story or 65 feet in height, containing 66,340 square feet in total gross area, known as the Christian Brothers Academy Sports Dome, CBA Sports Dome. It's going to be located at 12 Airline Drive, Town of Albany, County of Albany, State of New York. The petitioner is seeking relief from 2 code sections. They include 19 NYCRR Part 1221, the Building Code of New York State, Section 504, Table 504.3, which regulates the building height and number of stories. The petitioner is requesting relief from Table 504.3, the building height limitations for a Type 2B building not equipped throughout with a automatic sprinkler system. Petitioner is also seeking relief from 19 NYCRR Part 1221, the Building Code of New York State, Section 506, Table 506.2, which regulates the allowable building area. The petitioner is requesting relief from Table 506.2, the building area limitations for a Type 2B building not equipped throughout an automatic sprinkler system. And lastly, the petitioner is also seeking relief from Code Section 19 NYCRR Part 1225, the Fire Code of New York State, Section 903.2.1.3 for Group A3, which requires an automatic sprinkler system where the fire area exceeds 12,000 square feet. Petitioner is requesting relief from the requirement that the structure with a fire area exceeding 12,000 square feet be required to contain an automatic sprinkler system. Those are the code sections that we're seeking relief from. So then, now that introduces the case. At this time, we'll now open it up discussion and allow the petitioner to present your case. Please again state your name for the record, and now's the time for you to have that discussion. So thank you, Craig.
Thank you. I said earlier, my name is Craig Tripp. I'm a senior landscape architect with Greenman Peterson. Also the project manager for the Christian Brothers Academy multi-use sports dome. You've gone through a little bit of what I had in my notes, so I'll be able to go a little bit quicker through this, and obviously we're happy to answer any questions if I don't hit on something that you want me to cover. One quick question for you. I did, just if it makes things a little easier for you, I brought 11 by 17s of a couple things just so you guys, if you can't see some of these things from the distance, still help you a little bit. Would you like me to go?
Fantastic. If it's including your exhibits, we do have printouts of drawings in front of us.
I've got, yeah, so I think there might be one sheet that's duplication, and
Okay.
everybody just added it to make it easier for you. A total of 3 sheets in each of these.
Yeah, we should.
I'll share with Jared.
He's got enough.
You're welcome.
Looks like he's has enough.
Yeah, I got extra still too. So basically, just to start out here, you've covered the sections that we're looking for relief from. I'll kind of give you an overview of the project a little bit and then kind of walk through why we're looking for them and kind of what we believe are the justifications for such relief. So the project itself is located on Christian Butter Academy's Albany campus on 12 Airline Drive. So the first sheet, then what I just handed you, just gives you kind of giving them a little bit of the site plan so you can see contextually where we're talking about. And this board that I brought just shows the aerial down a little bit so you guys can get familiarity with where on the campus we're talking about putting this. So essentially on the what would be the west side of the campus over here, this is where Sand Creek runs essentially north-south. On that side of the property, the Christian Butter Academy property itself starts right here. The existing school building is in this location, and we're putting the dome south of behind the existing school building to kind of the southwest corner. There's an existing fire access road that comes around the back side of the building and loops all the way around the current condition. That's going to remain. We will have to repave a portion of that just because of the work that's going to take place to build the dome. And then there will be a new fire access road around the dome itself that loops back and connects to that existing fire access road. In the package that we submitted for the application, would have been the application form itself and a total of 4 exhibits, one being the project narrative, one being a copy of the site plan, which is I think the sheet that's the first one, what I gave you a copy of. The full set of the plans for the dome of the Farley Group, as well as riveting 185-page document from the Farley Group on fire safety within a dome. So the reasons that we're here are the 3 code sections that you referenced that we're looking for relief from. Not putting a sprinkler system within the dome, the variance for the height. The code allows us up to 55 feet for the type that we're looking, construction type. We need 65, and then the total floor area coverage. They're all interrelated, as you kind of mentioned anyway, to not sprinkler the dome is what they all kind of come back to. So basically, I'm just going to flip this real quick. This is another page that I gave you guys a copy of so you can see it from where you're at. So starting with the fire sprinkler aspect of the variance request. Sprinkler required a little bit, but the codes themselves are really geared towards conventional construction. Domes, by nature of what they are and what they're for and how they're physically built and how they're structurally supported, don't lend themselves to incorporation of a sprinkler system because there's not anything to connect a sprinkler system to. It's an air-supported structure with cabling to keep it from flying away like a balloon. The other aspect of this is that the fabric that the dome material itself is made of, it meets NFPA 701 and ASTM D6413 as far as testing requirements go, which basically address flame propagation and flame resistance. The fabric itself has a 2-second flame out, so it's essentially non-combustible. You took a match to it, it's going to pretty much put itself out practically instantly, so you take the match away from it. So put simply, this means that the membrane material, though it will disintegrate in the presence of flame, cannot itself support combustion or contribute fuel to a fire. If the source of the fire is removed, the fabric will self-extinguish and combustion will cease. Another component to this is that for these domes, if there ever were to be a fire, the methodology for fighting a fire in a dome is you get everybody out of any building and you turn off the air systems and let the dome collapse, which effectively smothers the fire. As I mentioned, we've got the 20-foot fire access all the way around the road, which will cover the fire access itself. It also allows the winter maintenance to keep snow and remove from the perimeter of it, which you need to do for fire safety itself in with, but you also structurally need to keep snow from piling up against the dome. And given the purpose and the use and the reason we're looking to do a dome in the first place, it's an open floor space, wall to wall. It's just a big gigantic room essentially, with a high ceiling, lots of air space. And there's clear visibility from anywhere that you would be within the dome of the exit doors. So to make a comparison to a conventional building construction of the same size, a conventional building would require a total of 4 exit doors per code. In our case, we have 8 emergency exit doors in addition to the pedestrian and the vehicle airlock locations. So we have 10 ways out of this building. So we got 2.5 times the number of required exit doors. Additionally, the code would require that you're no further than 200 feet from the closest emergency exit. And in this case, there's nowhere in this dome that you can be where you would be able to be any further than 116 feet from the closest exit door. So the other 2 components that we're looking for, and as I mentioned, these all kind of go together. The other aspect is the building fire area for the total floor square footage. As you mentioned, there's kind of 2 pieces of the code that get the one is the 12,000 square foot limit. And then there's another section of the code, I forget which table reference it is, but it's the one where it starts at 9,500 square feet, and then you apply it and do the math formula, and you can essentially get up to 75% of that added back to it based on your perimeter, and that's unobstructed. It would get us a few thousand more square feet with the math, but it's not getting us to what we need to relieve for anyway. And again, given the reason that we're looking to do a dome in the first place, the purpose of this dome for this EVA school is it's a practice facility for their sports activities to get them out of the weather, allow them to have year-round access to training for track, for the outdoor sports essentially. And within the code parameters of the square footage would be allowed, you couldn't even fit it in field for a baseball field within there. So you need a structure like this to accommodate what we're trying to do. And then the other component to that is the building height, which ties directly into the same kind of thing from a functionality standpoint for, if you're taking fielding practice for baseball, if you got a 20-foot ceiling height or something, that's not gonna work very well. And the 65-foot that we're looking for, that's 10 feet above what the code allows, is literally a function of the structure of the building and what it takes of a footprint of this size to build it. It's all tied to the perimeter, the total square footage, the cabling that goes up, and how these things are supported by the air. That kind of summarizes the project itself and the reasons that we're looking for the variances. We're happy to answer questions.
Great. Yeah, let's open it up to the board and have a conversation. Any questions we have?
I have a few. This is Laura Ryder. I just wanted to confirm, this is a permanent structure, it's not a seasonal take down?
No, it's permanent, yep.
Okay, and I think I read conflicting information. Is there or is there not any spectator seating?
There's no permanent spectator seating. They're not putting in bleachers or anything like that, but they may bring in portable benches or something like that for players to sit and put their shoes on, but there is no spectator component to this on any kind of a permanently installed bleacher system. As I mentioned, it's a practice facility. It's basically taking what they do right now outside and putting it inside. And a good example of one of the specific components is track. When they have times when the weather outside is horrible and they need to still let their track runners run, they're running in hallways at the school. So it gives them a facility where they can do that in a safe and effective environment.
So it sounds like the anticipation, at least at this point, is a practice facility. When I hear practice, I'm not picturing a lot of spectators like they're hosting games, live games, or are they? Is there that potential where they could have a number of spectators bring in their own chairs and their own seating to
there wouldn't be spectators bringing their own chairs, like, you know, the fold outs or anything like that. You know, they, like I said, they really, the only event that might involve any kind of spectator aspect to it would be if they had a track run. But the rest of it, you know, they've got, the infield is turf, but that's just practice for baseball, football, soccer, lacrosse. There's going to be a net that hangs, covers the perimeter of the interface between the turf and the track, just so nobody can smack the lacrosse ball if they're outside of that, things like that. So no, the intention is not that this is a facility like a track, you know, outdoor track meet where there's like people everywhere kind of thing. It's not room for that anymore.
We didn't see anywhere, at least I haven't found it, where there's a calculated occupant load listed.
We went through the math on that, and given the uses within the dome, it's not your typical occupancy calculation where like, okay, it's a conference room and there's going to be 50 chairs and boom, you know, there's your number. So what we did is we broke it down by the areas and the uses, and you know, what's the most you would fit. If it was football, that was practicing. Here's the basketball court, you know, you have teams on, a couple people on the bench, and coaches and refs, that kind of thing. So what we're looking at here, this is a graphic for this. Essentially, I think what we're looking at with this is probably in the neighborhood of 280, 290, somewhere in that ballpark, when you add up if everything was happening simultaneously. I don't know if you can see it from where you are, but you know, this is weight room area, assuming 20 occupants at once, you know, for safety reasons, something like that, you don't want tons of people all over the place looking for, you know. But that's the methodology we went through to come up with that.
And are there any structured mezzanines at all within the facility?
Not within the dome. No, the dome itself is good. There's an airlock connection so there's two airlocks. There's one for vehicles, because if you ever have to get in here for maintenance, grooming of the field, anything like that, or if there was ever somebody got injured, there's an ambulance that would drive right in this thing. And then there's the pedestrian airlock, which is centered. I'm going to go back to a different. So if you look at this sheet that I give you the copy of on this side, that's where there's going to be a separate entry building, and that's where there'll be a lobby and restrooms. And that's connected to the other side of that airlock.
This is Laura again on the board. Is that entry building, what type of construction is that? Is that also a type 2B? Is it considered like part of this building? Is it fire separated from the dome?
So there, Joe Paradis from Envision Architects is on virtually. So Joe, did you hear that question?
Hi, this is Joe Paradis. Yes, I did hear that. It is a 2B construction as well.
Okay. So but it's considered all the same fire area, or is it fire separated from the dome?
The airlock itself is
separation.
you know, it itself kind of provides some functional separation.
But that would mean, I mean, like the walls of the lobby area and the door to it is, there's closures, there's fire separation.
Yeah, I'll flip one more.
There are.
Okay.
So here's this was in the Farley Group plan set, but it'll help you to see it a little bit. So if you look at this top section here, this is showing you, this right here is what we would see if you were kind of looking, if the entry building was invisible, essentially looking through it, is the face of the dome that you would see.
Right.
This is the vehicle airlock location here, which is kind of a nose that comes out at probably 40 to 50 feet, I think it is. And then the pedestrian airlock comes out 15 to 20 feet and makes it up to the other side of the access inside the entry building. And that there's a spin turnstile, like in this building, and then there's a regular push door in that airlock.
So we're considering it a separate fire area. So we're not adding the area of the lobby to the area of the dome, making it an even larger building.
Right. From purposes of the reason that we're here,
right?
The dome is kind of its own animal.
Andy Ellis from the board. Couple things. I know at the Adirondack Sports Dome, they had the annual event up there for the Northeast Boat Show. So there's an introduction into the dome of other combustibles besides what you're proposing. And they also have a vehicle entrance that allows them to bring in other things besides just the ambulance. And second, they had a partial collapse on the building back in about 2014, I think, for the snow load that was built up on the dome itself, not around it. It came from the actual snow load. Do you have some comments on what the use? I know that's supposed to be a practice facility, but part of my concern is other revenue that could be generated in the dome besides just practices, you know, a wedding venue or a graduation or something like that. Is there other intended uses of the dome by the school?
Right, and I asked those very same questions early on in the project when we were coordinating with CBA, and there is no intention of things like that, because I always wanted to make sure if I needed to allow structurally inside on the slab or anything area that would support, like you were just exactly saying, boat show or whatever it might be. But from a liability standpoint, from a functional standpoint, from a please don't ruin our stuff standpoint, that's not their intention. It's for their own students to practice. That answer all the way.
Well, also the snow load factor of that, you know, the snow actually built up on the side of the dome and pushed it in.
Right, right. And so I heard about that as well. I don't remember who the manufacturer on that one was. There are more, you know, there are other manufacturers, but this one in particular is the Farley Group, which is the same as the Optrums, which went in about 8 years ago, I want to say, just up at the north end of Sand Creek. So there should be any concern with that. If necessary, they would, you know, get the rakes or whatever they need to pull material if it does were to start to build up operating. It's the Farley Group has done 900 plus domes since 1970, and over 400 of them are still in operation. So they've got this figured out pretty well.
Thank you.
This is Laura again. I have a question probably for Joe, maybe, or you have an answer too. What is the insulation level? I'm trying to figure out how this dome meets the energy code. It doesn't seem like there could possibly be enough insulation to meet the energy code.
The way that the dome is insulated, what provides insulative property besides the material itself, is it's double. So there's an airspace. You know, it's kind of like a bubble wrap kind of a thing, and you get stuff sent to you, you know, Amazon boxes. So that airspace, interstitial space between the layers is where the R value is coming from. What the actual R value is, I don't have that number up to the top.
Right, I was looking through the paperwork to see if that was listed anywhere, but that would be good to know. That's another requirement of the codes, meeting the energy code.
Right, and it does. It will. You know, it's the Farley Group's dome plan. They've done tons of these things. So there's literally one that just went through the same process. That's probably 2 miles away from this. This CBA currently rents space in that as necessary, which is they get one on their property that they don't have to go that route.
And what about, is there any combustible equipment that would be stored in the dome, or is there a place to store it in the lobby area, or, you know, some storage areas associated with that building, or?
Anything else, like you're talking about things like groomers for the field and that type of.
Yeah, anything, you know, depending on the sport, there might be, I don't know, what else, you know, there might be.
They're not going to store anything in the dome itself other than things related to the dome. So like on that example with the groomer, that they have a separate storage building on site where that kind of stuff is and will remain. The only things that might get stored in here would be you know, if they went with like a modular basketball court or something. But the intention is that we're going to just do the same surfacing in the rest of the dome convenience stores. Maybe that's not really a thing. So they're not allocating space within the dome to store materials or anything like that. with the cost of everything, we're cramming as much as we possibly can into as small of a footprint as we possibly can as well.
This is Dave on the board. Is there a fire alarm system planned at all to be installed?
There would be a fire alarm system as far as detection. Probably extinguishers mounted in strategic locations within the dome. We're just looking to not have to sprinkle it.
Is the plan, again, I didn't notice anything in the paperwork describing the fire alarm system. Is it just a manual fire alarm system with pull boxes at each exit, or are there actually detectors mounted up with the lights?
Right, so our MEP group is working right now on those components of it, and my current understanding is we're looking at things where you have the risers out near the perimeter wall for the smoke detection. It wouldn't, same reason as the fire sprinkler relief, you wouldn't do something like a standpipe or a box for fighting like a traditional building. You don't want them inside fighting fire anyway, it's the outside shut off and let it do its thing.
Any other questions from the board members at all? Great. Is there a code enforcement official present? So I thought, do you have any comments or questions or thoughts on this project?
A little bit. This is Donald DeLue Jr., Senior Commercial Building Inspector for the town of Albany. So obviously, Craig Tripp on this project quite extensively when you were in the planning stages of it. So the town of Albany has a few domes similar to this one that we're proposing. So we're very familiar with them. Craig mentioned the Aframs one, which is about 2 miles away from this one. That dome is a lot larger than what we're proposing for this. And this board granted a variance for that one. I discussed it with the senior fire investigator, Ben Stevens, first internally. He actually did an occupancy count for it based on the table 1004.5. And what he came up with potential occupancy to be 1,261 persons. Obviously, we wouldn't want to see that level of occupancy in there without a sprinkler system.
Right.
Certainly would want a fire alarm smoke detection system that is monitored for the dome.
Right.
And from what I understand, the building that you enter, the 2B building, that's going to be sprinkled, right? Or is it not?
Joe's on the line, can you answer that question?
It is
Can you
not.
confirm that? It is not.
It is not. It
Is
falls.
that because it's not required because we're
It's only 3,000 square feet and falls under all the requirements for sprinklering.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be required for that, okay. So we wouldn't be opposed to allowing similar variance circumstances that what this board has still in those other domes in the town of Albany. Obviously, we want to see a limitation on the occupancy count. Probably something below 300 or 300 or lower. That's really it.
I would tell you, I mean, that's some concern. We were discussing the case prior to everyone coming in, and that is a concern as well, because, like Andy was saying, is, oh, great, now we have indoor space. Can we host or do more things with it, make some revenue, so that if this, for example, if we do grant a variance like this, we're going to put stipulations on and conditions that say you can only use it for these things. It has to be, you're required to do certain things. So yeah, an occupancy load of 300 or less is something that we would be considering.
Yes, and that also brings up another point. So the dome should be used as would be presented for sports training and practice facility.
Yeah.
You know, that's the intent, so I'd like to see it that way. Other than that, we're not opposite. So unless maybe ask any questions for me. That's all I have.
So quick question maybe for Craig. The 20-foot fire lane that surrounds the building, I noticed, there are larger areas around the corners. So I just want to make sure someone actually did a study to make sure a fire truck could actually
Yes,
make it all the way around.
yep, that's why those are there, get the bump out so that they get their trucks around it.
Is that going to be a lighting around the perimeter of the outside of the building?
I didn't.
Will there any be lighting around the perimeter of the building for the outside?
No, there's no intention to light, other than, the building itself for the entry, exit lighting, that kind of stuff, but we're not looking to put poles around the perimeter. The fire access road itself is, like I mentioned earlier, it's allowing CBA themselves a place where they can remove snow anyway, which they need to do. We don't truly anticipate that it's really gonna be an access road that's ever exercised, because there's nobody on a roof to get off with a ladder truck or anything, but it's there because it needs to be.
Tight squeeze near that shed.
That shed goes away.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So do the 4 of the 6 tennis courts.
I have a question too for the applicant, this is Jackie. Is 300 more than would actually be in there? Because for most assembly occupancies, 99 would be the most you would have without a sprinkler system. So would 99 occupant load be sufficient, or is that too low?
I think that's probably too low, just based on the map that we did, based on the areas and the uses.
So
they
what
don't
would be
want to limit
realistic?
it to-
Is 300 really what is needed? Or could you go lower than 300?
Well, like I said, I think that we're, based on our initial estimates, we're probably a little under that anyway. Here's a good way to answer it. The whole school has, I think, somewhere hovering around 550 students. They would have to have every student in there all at once practicing, and they don't even all play sports. So it's, we're not looking to cram this thing with everybody all at once.
But if this board is going to put an occupancy limitation on it, what is a reasonable occupancy limitation? Is Don correct with 300?
I mean, ideally for CBA's purposes, I would like to see that be, I don't want to limit them so that the purpose of building the dome is gone. You know what I mean? So whatever, I'd like to put that up there.
Because they're gonna have to do an operating permit, so they're gonna have to put a number on there.
Right.
So what would that number be?
Joe, what was our number total that we were looking at?
It was between 280 and 290. We calculated each area if they were going to be used all at the same time, and it came to 280. But there may be an administrator or something walking in, so we did it between 280 and 290. But the thing is that they wouldn't use all of them at the same time. They just couldn't function that way. But 280 is our number, if it were, because it could happen. And if they would never do a full school thing in event in there. They would just use their gymnasium, which is rated for that, and it's in the building. They wouldn't want them to go all outside just to meet. They would have it happen in the gymnasium. So 280 is the number that we came to based on the use.
Thank you.
In some of the, sorry, this is Laura again, in some of the documents of the, that Farley provided, the fire safety document.
Yeah.
There was mention of maybe an example building where they have a fire watch during use. Is that something that has been considered, or is that?
I think that would probably be built into like an O&M that the school would be provided with, and if they had something where they were getting on the upper end of that capacity, they would probably have that kind of a functionality where they'd station people to do the fire watch approach.
Is that done? Is that something that you've encountered in other projects?
Dome-wise, no.
No.
No,
Okay.
they haven't done that. Bathrooms, kind of just that sort of thing. Yeah. So, but again, it's up to the board
Right.
if you feel it's necessary.
So it sounds like you have more experience than we do at domes.
Well, the thing with that too, back to something I said earlier, is just a function of what this space is, being a dome. It's a wide open floor. So from anywhere within this thing, you can see every exit door too. So, there's not you don't have wall partitions that are, you don't know what's on the other side of it. If there's a garbage can on fire or something like that. It's very good visibility.
There's no, I think you covered this, there's no storage rooms or equipment.
Right,
Or any
exactly.
fixed structure in there that would obstruct your view.
Right.
Maybe a black net sometime, but as you see.
Just be not even like an opaque anything. It was just a safety net to keep lacrosse balls and footballs and shitty people that aren't on the turf. Closest thing we would even remotely have to a partition wall would be fencing around the weightlifting area, again, for safety purposes, but we're not talking board and backing kind of a thing, chain link or something along those lines. And then there's one area of the dome has, they want to do a golf simulator, so there might be small side walls, golf ball, flying, but that's in one corner and oriented so that, again, it has visibility as well.
This is Andy again. So we don't have any kind of footprint like you showed us of what the intended space is. But you're saying that you're gonna actually like isolate areas like around the weight room or like if somebody's playing tennis and now there's a fence up and somebody's running track, can you explain a little bit more about the limitations of being able to have that 116-foot egress path?
Yeah, I'll
Exit
pull
path.
that back up too, just so you can see it. So we're not intending to do like, temporary setups, like portable construction and something like that for various events. Like, we want to get this kind of set up and done so they can function at, on a daily basis that they need to. But just to give you a little bit of a breakdown, the weight area would be located in this corner of the dome. Basketball court here, no fencing or anything around that. This is kept clear because of the vehicle airlock. You want to make sure we got access in that way. There's a 200-meter track here with the turf on the infield. The netting that I was talking about will just be something that separates from that interface between the track and the interior turf. Down here is where the sand pit would be for the long jump and triple jump event, and the golf simulator in the back. So the only permanent fencing type of thing would just be to put the perimeter around that weight area. The rest is wide open.
But the netting would actually prevent somebody from going from that field directly across to one of the exits is what, is that fixed to the ground? Is that-
No, it's actually, it hangs. It's a very lightweight, it's literally, if you see like, even on an outdoor lacrosse field, just the netting that's strung around the perimeter of that. Generally, that kind of a concept, just instead of on poles, it just hangs, and it's a lightweight material. So there's nothing stopping you from being able to get, there'll be openings that you can decide to walk through. So there's no barriers to access and egress. It's just
Right, Craig, I can add to that. If you've seen a soccer match with 4 soccer matches going on at Aframs, the nets are only really behind where the goals are. So on the sides, there wouldn't be a requirement for a net. So you'd have direct access to at least 4 exits.
It's the size of the Athens dome. You said it was quite a bit larger than this one. I don't know the square footage of that one.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I think they're pushing 90,000 square feet.
90,000?
I think we're right around 75% of the size of it.
Yeah.
It's also a lot higher than this one, too.
Is it?
For the same reasons it has to
Right, it's just
be
a
able to
function
support
of the,
itself.
right.
Yeah.
86,400 was the size of the Abrams Dome. German. 86,400
What was that,
square
Dan?
feet. It's 86,400 square feet.
86.
Abrams.
Okay. Got it.
I don't think I have any more questions.
Any other questions from the board members? Any other comments from petitioner? Anybody not? Any other comments? Okay. I think you've answered all our questions that we need. Great. Anybody else on the call, WebEx, that has any questions, comments before we go into deliberation? Great. So we're going to go into deliberation next. So the way we handle that is we ask that all parties stand up, exit the room, board members will deliberate the case and come to some conclusion. Barbara will invite you back into the room when we're ready to go to the next steps and have to conclude the case and move on to the next one. So at this point, let's go off the record.
We're on the record.
Thank you. So we're going to thank you everyone for hanging in there. We're going to come out of recess in the matter of petition number 2022-0603. The petitioner again is Greenman Peterson Inc. Mr. Craig Tripp from there is representing petitioner's company. At this point, I don't think the board has any further questions for the petitioner. I don't know if you have any other questions, comments for us.
I think the only thing I would just say, and we've kind of already, mentioned it during our presentation, but, we're not kind of a unique, situation as far as there's lots of these domes already in existence and, did that before you guys. So we're not asking for anything that hasn't already been granted previously for other, similar structures.
Yep. Great. Anybody else with any other comments, Don? Anything else before we conclude the hearing for this case? Great. Board members, anybody? Good? All right. We'll go forward. So bear with us. There is a bit of a formality here again. We're going to have to go through and conclude the case, and I'll review it again, and then we'll pull the board and take a vote. We'll describe some findings and some conclusions. There'll be some conditions that we put on our conclusions. And then in the end, there will be a formal write-up that comes in the mail following this. And that's for every case that we do going throughout today. At the end of this, we conclude it, and then you get a formal response in the mail with everything that goes through here, which is why it's important we have the court reporter online. So the petition pertains to the construction of an air-supported dome assembly A3 indoor sports without spectator seating. It is a construction type 2B, proposed to be 65 feet in height, maintaining 66,340 square feet. It is located at 12 Airline Drive, Town of Colony, County of Albany, for Christian Brothers Academy Sports Dome. The petitioner is seeking relief from NYCCRR Part 1221, the Building Code of New York State, Section 504, Table 504.3, which regulates the building height and number of stories. Petitioner is also seeking relief from NYCCR Part 1221, the Building Code of New York State, Section 506, Table 506.2, which regulates the allowable building area. And petitioner is also seeking relief from 19 NYCRR Part 1225, the Fire Code of New York State, Section 903.2.1.3 for Group A3, which requires an automatic sprinkler system where the fire area exceeds 12,000 square feet. With respect to the petition number 2022-0603, the board makes the following findings. Number one, the subject of this petition pertains to the construction of air-supported indoor athletics practice facility, sports dome, that measures approximately 214 feet wide by 310 feet long by 65 feet in height. Number two, the petitioner indicates the proposed sports dome will be used as a sports complex without spectator seating. Number 3, the proposed sports dome will exceed the height and area limitations permitted by tables 504.3 and 506.2 of the 2020 Building Code of New York State. Number 4, the proposed sports dome will contain a fire area exceeding that allowed by the 2020 Fire Code of New York State, Section 903.2.1.3, Condition 1. Fact number 5, in addition, the petitioner requests relief from the requirements that an automatic sprinkler system be installed in the sports dome as required by the FCNYS, Section 903.2.1.3, for the following reasons. 5A, the proposed structure is pressurized air-filled canvas dome with tie-down cabling, and there is no practical or safe means of incorporating an automatic sprinkler system into this type of structure. 5B, if there ever was a fire in the dome, the air pressure system would be shut off and the dome would collapse and any potential fire would be extinguished. 5C, there is an existing fire hydrant located within 100 feet of the proposed sports dome. 5D, a similar structure known as Athens Sports Dome of greater area was constructed nearby without a sprinkler system, which also received a variance at that time. Finding fact number 6, the local code enforcement official has been contacted in this matter, is present today. Thank you for being here, and does not object to the granting of this variance under Part 1205. Number 7, the stated occupant load for the sports dome is 280 occupants. Number 8, the entrance building constructed adjacent to the sports dome is a Type 2B building. The requested variance pertaining today is only pertaining to the sports dome and not the entrance building. Wherefore, it is determined that the application for variance from 19 NYCRR Part 1221, Section 504, and Table 504.3, 19 NYCRR Part 1221, Section 506, and Table 506.2, and 19 NYCR Part 1225, Section 903.2.1.3, be and is hereby proposed to be granted with the following conditions, and these are the ones you want to pay attention to. Number 1, that the building is to be used only for a sports facility without permanent spectator seating being installed. So it's limited to a sports training and practice facility by CBA and their affiliates. It cannot be used for any other use. Number 2, the building design occupant load is 300. Number 3, a monitored fire alarm system with automatic detection along with manual fire alarm pull boxes per code section 907.2 shall be provided and installed. Number 4, that fire extinguishers be installed at every door, entrance, and exit. Number 5, that all conditions, enhancements, and equipment offered by the petitioner be installed as described here today in accordance with the applicable generally accepted reference standards. And finally, number 6, that all other aspects of this building construction will be in compliance with applicable codes, rules, and regulations. This concludes the conditions. Strict compliance with the code would entail practical difficulties, unnecessary hardship, or would otherwise be unwarranted because it would be physically and or legally impractical to install a sprinkler system. Is there a motion from the board?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Andy. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll take Laura's second. Thanks, Andy. I will now pull the board. Those in favor of the motion say yay. Those opposed say nay. We'll go down the road. Laura, Jackie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay.
Laura?
Yeah.
I also say yay. That's 5 yeas, 0 nays. So the variance is granted. Furthermore, the decision is limited to the specific building and the application before it as contained within the petition and should not be interpreted to give implied approval of any general plans or specifications presented in support of this application. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This case is now concluded. Let's go off the record. On there.
We are on the record.
Thank you. So the time's now 10:55. We're going to jump into our second petition for the day. It's in the matter of petition number 2022-0607. And the petitioner is represented from RF Investments LLC. If you don't mind, petitioner, state your name, address.
Good morning, board. Good morning, everybody. My name is Anthony Reyes. I'm the chairman of RF Investments.
Right.
We reside at 15 Weeks High, New York, in Long Island.
Perfect. Give me one moment. Let me introduce the case, and then we'll open up the for you to go. The petition pertains to an existing building of group R2 occupancy, 3 stories in height, of type 5A wood frame protected construction, located at 651 Lansing Street, City of Schenectady, County of Schenectady, State of New York. The relief is requested from Chapter 61-B of the Consolidated Laws of New York, Multiple Residence Law, Article 3, Section 30, cellar ceilings, which states that every such dwelling 3 stories or more in height, the ceiling of the cellar or of the lowest story, if there be no cellar, shall be fire retarded or be equipped with a sprinkler system unless such ceiling has already been plastered to the satisfaction of the department. Petitioners requesting relief from the requirement that a fire retarded ceiling or sprinkler system be provided in the cellar of the dwelling. That concludes opening up the case. If you don't mind, now's the time, and you can present your case to the board, and we'll go through it.
So we purchased this building back in September 29, 2022, just last year. And then just maybe like 3 weeks after, we had a visitation from one of the inspectors from Schenectady County. The reason we had the visitation is because we had requested a rental certificate similar to the one prior owner had. So when they came, they said, hey, Anthony, you need to bring the building to code. 2 of the ways, as you mentioned, is to paint or have the sheetrock, the 5/4-inch sheetrock fire repellent, or to paint the whole basement, floors, walls, and ceiling to be fire repellent for 1 hour proof burning. So we couldn't because there was financial hardship. Not only that, 75% of the building hasn't paid since then and prior to that. So we're actually in courts right now. So money is not really coming in from the building that we can make the modifications. So what we did is that we actually did a few of the modifications. I'm not sure if you have any paperwork. I can show this to you guys.
Do have a series of
photos.
photos.
So some of the photos actually show the interconnected alarm systems that we installed. And one of the ways that we actually proved that it went through and it worked, on December 6th, we had one of the smoke alarms went off in one of the apartments. One of the inspectors from Schenectady came, they pressed the button, she walked through every single unit, every single place in the building, and it actually worked. So thank God it did work. We have also installed, besides that, on every single exit, we have installed emergency exit signs similar to the one on that door over there. In case the lights go off, there's a fire, you can see it. We have also installed fire extinguishers, which none of these things existed prior to us taking ownership of the building. Even though prior ownership had a lot of violations, upwards of $40,000 violations and taxes, they had given them a rental certificate with none of these safety codes compliance. So we're just humbly requesting that you guys please give us a variance due to financial hardship that we're experiencing for lack of payments, and of course, painting and 3/4-inch sheetrock installing and buying it, they're very expensive. So, and we have, also received violations even with the name of the prior ownership to our address, which is not even us. So,
Okay.
I know these people didn't manage this building well, but from our defense, we have managed every single building that we own in Schenectady and other places as well. Our tax records are impeccable. Everything that the company represents has been done well.
Okay.
That's it. And thank you for squeezing me into it. From what I heard, so I appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. Board members, any questions for the petitioner?
I have a few. Can you just give us a quick image of the layout of the building? So I know I kind of looked it up on Google Street View, so it, I kind of see what the outside looks like. So when you walk in the door, is it just it's a flat on each side times 3 floors? Is that
So when you walk in the floor, this is the front door.
right?
You'll be coming inside towards this way. You'll be going up the stairs. That'll be the second floor, 2 units on the front, 1 unit in the back. Each unit is shotgun style, long like
Okay.
this. And then there's also, if you keep walking this direction, there's an emergency exit towards the back that leads to, a secondary exit in case something's happening. At the back of a building, I have installed stairways. There are up to code from my understanding. I have not seen any violations, so that's how I know I'm on code.
Right.
That the people from the second floor to the third floor can escape if there's a fire or any other sort of emergency.
Okay. And can you also describe to me, it's hard to tell from the photos, like what spaces these devices are in. So tell me how your interconnected system works. Like where are the devices located?
So, for example, here's the view from the back. This little window represents the front of the building. There's one in the back on each corner of the basement. There's an alarm also installed in every apartment at the kitchen, on the bedroom, in the living room. They're open space apartments, so when you see them, you can see them just like this. We also have them installed at the entrance and exit of the building, and also on the exterior stairways that I mentioned on each floor. Same thing with the fire extinguishers. We have them installed on every exit, not the outside exit, of course, just the inside. We have them installed in every midway as you turn around on the stairs on each floor. And we also have one in the kitchen area and one in near the bedroom, if that's the bedroom, near the bedroom area on every single apartment.
So the enunciation occurs not just in the common hallways, but if tenant 1 has a kitchen fire, it enunciates in every single apartment?
Yes,
or?
and that was proven by the inspector who
Okay.
came in December in the middle of the night, and the alarm went off because they were cooking, and the person rang off, and she verified that it did work.
Okay,
If not, I would have received a fine.
right, so they're all tied to like a fire alarm
Yes, ma'am.
box, if
Yes.
you will, I don't know
That
the correct
alarm
term
was
for it.
located in the basement.
Okay. Okay.
It's just is it local or is it monitored?
Look, the fire department did come, so I.
By telephone? Somebody called in?
It's
or-
on they call.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
so, yeah.
Right, so when-
Local, yes.
When the alarm goes off, there's not like a monitoring service that alerts you as owner or alerts somebody locally or alerts the fire department immediately. It just enunciates in the building.
That is
Right,
correct,
okay.
and of course, we do have management, that lives in the neighborhood that is registered with the county.
Right. But they're not notified
Not
every time
notified
the
if the
alarm
alarm
goes
goes
off.
off.
Okay,
You're
so
correct.
that's, thanks for clarifying that.
Are these hardwired, the alarms? They're all hardwired.
Yes.
And carbon monoxide tied into those alarms as
They're
well?
both- They're combo.
When you start renting the building, are your tenants gonna have access to the basement or is that landlord only?
Landlord only, in management.
The doors to the apartments, are they self-closing?
Yes, I do apologize, I did not bring a picture of that, I thought I did include it, but I do have a picture that I can email you, that I have it on my phone.
You probably wouldn't have passed your inspection if they weren't,
Right.
right? Did they look for those self-closing doors?
Yes, they did,
They should have.
And just confirm the basement too as well?
that is correct, sir. And, you want to take a look at the picture? I can email it to you to prove, I mean.
No.
And so to clarify, so there is a door that separates the basement from the first floor.
Yes, I mean, we gotta go down to the stairs, there's a door, a fireproof rated door
Okay.
that it closes with a self-locking mechanism, a little hinge similar to that.
Right.
Which is here, and it just shuts closed.
And that's the door that'll secure access to the basement.
That is correct, which only myself and management has the key.
You be using it for storage or just
No, no, sorry.
appliances?
No, sorry, just, you know, whatever mechanicals are there, they're there.
I see there's some sort of drywall surrounding the mechanicals.
That is the fireproof rated around the mechanicals.
Okay.
And then I've been working with Inspector Ferry, Daniel, been very helpful. He's actually the one that made the meeting, so I do appreciate it.
So are you the one who installed the sheetrock around the mechanical room, or was that
No,
already there?
that was there prior to the purchase. We only installed the alarms and the wiring, the exit sign, and of course the fire extinguishers.
I can't recall if there was a picture. Is the ceiling within the mechanical space fire sheetrock? Or just the walls around it?
No,
The ceiling too? I kind of vaguely remember that, yes. Colors.
it's all enclosed.
Right, but I'm saying, once you go into the mechanical space, right?
No,
The ceiling is not
No,
sheetrock?
it's not. You can hold on.
Sure, and there is there a detector in the mechanical?
Inside, when you go into the room, 2 or 3 feet or so, there's one right there.
So all the detectors visible within the building are connected. They're not, there's no individual detectors that are connected to the system.
Sorry, say that again?
So all the detectors in the building are connected to one another, not any individualized detectors.
No, from what I was told, they all need to be interconnected to each other, so one goes off, the other one on the that floor over here, is it on the basement or whatever have you. I think some of the pictures you guys might have might be black and gray. I do have color pictures, which are the same pictures if you guys want them. You guys can see the smoke alarms and the wiring that is all interconnected, and through the pictures you can see the brand new alarms.
Any other questions from the board members? Anybody else online, code enforcement official, maybe present, that would like to offer any thoughts or comments?
No questions or comments.
We have enough information to make a decision. So and then at this point, we're going to follow the same procedures. We're going to go into deliberation. Let's go off the record.
We're on the record.
Great. We're going to come out of recess in the matter of petition number 2022-0607. Again, the petitioner is RF Investment. At this time, the board member does not have any other questions for the petitioner. I don't know if you have any other comments or questions for us before we conclude the case.
No, just that, again, thank you for hearing my case today. I was told that I was squeezed in. I appreciate your time.
Yep.
Just please, if you could just work with us, just give us a variance. We're trying to do as best as possible. You
Yeah.
can see with the pictures. No, we're not bad. We're not a bad company.
Yeah, we understand that, yeah.
So whatever you guys want us to do, if I drop from Long Island in the morning, just to make sure I'm here to make sure we comply.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll run through it. I'll run through the case again, and then you'll hear a list of conditions at the end, like you did on the other case. Pay attention to those. You'll get those formally in the mail, and then we'll go from there.
I have a question.
Yes.
Once you get them on the mail, from then I have time to comply if I need to comply, or does it like start right now?
No, you'll have some time.
Okay.
Once you get in the mail, I believe that also goes to the city. They're informed of our conclusions here, and then there's communication between you and the code enforcement official. to make sure you comply.
The same way I've been trying to, the inspector and Mr. Daniel as well, we can continue that.
Great. So I'm going to review the case again, and then we'll take a formal vote. The petition pertains to an existing building, R2 occupancy, 3 stories in height, type 5A construction, located at 651 Lansing Street, City of Schenectady, County of Schenectady, State of New York. The relief is requested from Chapter 61-B of the Consolidated Laws of New York, Multiple Residence Law, Article 3, Section 30, cellar ceilings, which states that in every such dwelling 3 stories or more in height, the ceiling of the cellar or the lowest story, if there be no cellar, shall be fire retardant and be equipped with a sprinkler system unless such ceiling has already been plastered to the satisfaction of the department. With respect to the petition number 2022-0607, the board makes the following findings. Number 1, the building that is the subject of this petition is properly classified under Chapter 61-B of the Consolidated Laws of New York, Multiple Residence Law, Article 1, Section 4, as a multiple dwelling. Number 2, the subject building is approximately 4,548 square feet in gross square area and was originally constructed in 1984. Number 3, the subject building is required to conform with the provisions of Article 3 of the Multiple Residence Law as provided in Section 25, and that existed on July 1st, 1952, or was converted to a multiple dwelling after July 1st, 1952. It is not a hotel or similar dwelling subject to Article 4 of the Multiple Residence Law. Number 4, Article 3, Section 30 of the Multiple Residence Law requires in every such dwelling 3 stories or more in height, the ceiling of the cellar or of the lowest story, if there be no cellar, shall be fire retardant and be equipped with a sprinkler system unless such ceiling has already been plastered to the satisfaction of the department. Number 5, the lowest story, the cellar ceiling of this multiple family dwelling is not enclosed with fire retardant material and does not contain a sprinkler system. A fire in the cellar could easily spread throughout the building before it's noticed. There is mechanical systems, piping, electrical wiring along the ceiling of this unoccupied cellar, which would make installing a fire retardant ceiling very difficult. Number 6, as an alternative to compliance with Article 3, Section 30 of the Multiple Residence Law, the applicant has installed interconnected, wired smoke and carbon monoxide detection alarms interconnected on each story of the dwelling that would provide early warning in the event of a fire-related emergency. Number 7, the existing doors into the apartments and into the basement are self-closing. And number 8, the basement is not occupiable space by tenants. Tenants do not have access to the basement. This concludes the findings. The board finds that in the case before, the proposed variance would not substantially adversely affect the law's provisions for health, safety, and security. Strict compliance would entail practical difficulties, unnecessary hardship, and would otherwise be unwarranted because such would be unnecessary in light of alternatives which, without the loss in level of safety, achieve the intended objective of the law. Wherefore, it is determined that the application for a variance from Chapter 61-B of the Consolidated Laws of New York, Multiple Residence Law, Article 3, Section 30B, and is hereby proposed to be granted with the following conditions. So we want to pay attention. Number 1, that the existing interconnected smoke and carbon monoxide detectors are installed and located throughout the building as required by current code. Number 2, that the property owner shall have the city perform a formal test of the installed interconnected system to ensure all alarms are properly communicated and installed. And number 3, that any entrance door and every door opening into an entrance hall, stair hall, or other public hall connected therewithin shall be self-closing. And that concludes the conditions. Right? Is there a motion from the board? Jared,
I'll second.
motion. Ms. Coons Second. I will now pull the board. Those in favor say yea, and those opposed say nay. Ms. Coombs?
Yay.
Mr. Ellis?
Yay.
Ms. Ryder?
Yay.
Mr. Behringer?
Yay.
And I also have a vote yay. That's 5 yeas, 0 nays, and the variance is granted.
Thank you.
Furthermore, this decision is limited to the specific building and the application before it as contained within the petition and should not be interpreted to give implied approval of any general plans or specifications presented in support of this application. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. This case is now concluded. And let's go off the record.
We are on the record.
Great, thank you. We're looking at our third case of the day. It's petition number 2022-0609. The petitioner is Green Street of Schenectady, LLC. The petition pertains to an existing building of Group R2 occupancy, 3 stories in height. It's a Type 5A construction located at 219 Green Street, City of Schenectady, County of Schenectady, State of New York. Relief is requested from Chapter 61-B of the Consolidated Laws of New York, Multiple Residence Law, Article 3, Section 30, cellar ceilings, which states that in every such dwelling 3 stories or more in height, the ceiling of the cellar or of the lowest story, if there be no cellar, shall be fire retardant or be equipped with a sprinkler system unless such ceiling has already been plastered to the satisfaction of the department. So that introduces the case. We'll now open it up to petitioners here. Why don't you reintroduce yourself for the record? And sure, you can certainly stand up, whatever you're most comfortable.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to. You can sit, relax.
My name's Terry Phillips, and I was the owner of Green Street of Schenectady LLC. I applied for the variance. I guess I applied in November, and on the 30th of December we sold it to DT Property Holdings LLC. So I'm not the current owner, but I was the petitioner on the variance. The building, just for a little history, the building was moved in 2 pieces from Church Street to its current location by horse and wagon in 1925. So exactly when the building was built, I don't know, but I'm guessing 15, 20 years prior to that. I owned it from 1981 until the 30th of December. I don't have any nice slides like the architect. My information was submitted with the variance request. We have 5 apartments. I'm going to turn around. If you're facing the building, there's two on the right. Number 1, number 2, 3's on the second floor, 4's on the second floor, and then 5 is the 3rd floor apartment. So we only have 1 apartment on the 3rd floor. Dan Farrelly, is he still on?
Yeah.
Dan should be, yes.
Yes, I am.
Good. Division of Building Standards and Codes has been very helpful, and I appreciate that help. He sent me a listing of the conditions that would normally be required for relief to be granted from Section 30 of the MRL, and that at least 2 single station smoke alarm devices be provided in the cellar. That's been done. They're actually smoke/CO detectors.
And heat sensors.
Yeah, I'm gonna get there.
Are these wireless or are these?
They're wired.
They're hardwired.
They're hardwired.
And all
The ones
interconnected,
in the basement are?
done by electrician, we have all that information.
Okay. I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, the single station smoke alarm be provided on each landing of the exit stairway. There's one on the first floor. And when you go in the building, you go in through a very small 6 by 8 foot area, and the 2 apartment doors are on the sides. There's one there. You go up the stairs to another landing. The door to the 3rd floor apartment is at the top of the stairs, and then if I turn back around, facing the front, I'm facing the front of the building now. I'm facing the front. Apartment 3's here, apartment 4 here. It's the other end of that landing. Okay, and there's a single station smoke /CO hardwired at the 2nd floor, and then we put in an extra one that's inside the 3rd floor apartment. That a single station heat alarm be provided on the occupied side of one entrance door to each apartment, and that's all been done, and they're hardwired, and the heat detectors and the smoke detectors are all interconnected. And they have a copy of the permit to do the work, and then they have a copy of the approval by the building inspector that it was all done. And that any entrance door and every door opening into the entrance hall, stair hall, public hall connected there and be self-closing. And I checked that they all work, and then they checked that they all work. There are also detectors in every bedroom, I think that we've complied with those first 5 items, I submitted pictures of the building with my variance request. As you can see, I mean, like the building's been in its current location since 1925. The ceiling is got a lot of wires and a lot of pipes, and put in sheetrock would be a nightmare. I'm not sure how they would do it. So, with a single unit on the 3rd floor, we felt with the variance, without the variance, it'd be prohibitively expensive to do either the sprinkler system or sheetrock to seal. And I'll turn it over to the current owner, Mr. Eddie.
Great.
And if you have any questions for me, I'm good. Like I said, I owned it for 40 years. So
Okay.
when I started, I was a lot younger.
I've never
Did a
seen
lot of
anybody
work
take
myself
such good
early
care
on.
of property.
Yeah, that's good. Do it well then.
Start?
Yeah, sure.
My name is Dennis Ryan, and I am the current owner of 219 Green Street with my son and my daughter, which isn't here. But I just want to support, what Mr. Phillips had said. There's some things he might have missed, but we do have the permit for the electrical interconnecting smoke and heat sensors that were installed, along with the letter from the electrical inspector from the city of Schenectady, and it says, this is to verify that the structure located at 219 Green Street, Schenectady, New York, has been inspected and found that all completed work conforms substantially to the electrical permit, commercial, and the requirements of New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code applicable to general building construction, and said building may be used for the following occupancy. And it says 411 apartments. I don't know what the 411 means. But we have that. Once again, we have smoke, the interconnecting heat and smoke and carbons on every landing, in every apartment, along with additional smoke alarms in every bedroom and living room, and carbon monoxide detectors. We have fire extinguishers on every landing. We are going to put them in the apartments as well. We do that, my son and I do it with all our apartments. Also, the basement, the boiler room is 5/8 on the inside and 5/8 on the outside with a metal self-closing door. And there's a heat sensor and smoke detector in there, and there's another one outside the basement. And there is fire retardant insulation throughout the entire basement floor cavities of the joist. So, and there's fire escapes front and back, metal fire escapes, not wooden, all metal. And there's no entrance to the basement from the inside the building, it's exterior. It's a Bilco door, walk out. So, with that being said, I guess that's about it. Does that cover everything?
I have one more thing. I have the code enforcement official variance questionnaire, and the local code enforcement guy recommended that, do you support processing this request as a routine variance? And he said yes.
Got it.
And he's been very helpful also.
Right. And we do have all rentals on all the other apartments. In fact, we do even have one on that 5th apartment, the 3rd floor apartment. We do have it here. They did grant one on the 21st, on the April 21, they granted one. So at that time, they deemed it safe even without,
Right.
you know, all the interconnected stuff. And the only other thing is, I know I spoke with Justin Mazeka from Code, and he says it goes down at the code office as the address itself. There would be no name linked to it other than just the building.
Right.
So is that how that works?
Variance runs with the.
Variance, it'll be stuck to the building itself, so it doesn't matter
That's correct.
a name or anything?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. Now, is there anything I could leave so that myself and Mr. Phillips would both get a copy of everything that was done here today?
That would be a question for
Dan.
Dan and the
Dan.
state.
Right.
Okay.
What would you actually need?
Whatever the recommendations are,
I mean, the recording will be on our website.
okay,
Once they make a decision on your case, we're gonna email to everybody in that application.
okay, Dan has all my information.
Yeah. I would-
Right, yeah.
Oh, okay,
And you were added as a separate interested party.
right, right.
So the original owner was the applicant, and then I added you as an interested party. So you'll get notified of the decision. You'll get a copy.
Okay, thank you, Dan, thank you for everything, you've been so helpful.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you. That's about it, I guess.
So my understanding, just summarizes that all the alarms that we've heard and described here are interconnected, hardwired. There's no proposed of wireless alarms or anything.
The only wireless are the ones that we put in the living rooms and in the bedrooms for backup, but all the hardwire are in the apartments, yes.
Well, all the heat detectors
Are all,
and the smoke CO detectors in the basement and the first floor landing and the second floor
Yeah.
landing, and even in the 3rd floor apartment, they're all hardwired.
yeah,
And all-
interconnected,
And
yeah.
all interconnected, both
Yeah.
the heat detectors and the smoke/CO detector.
Yeah, and they're in every apartment, every landing.
has an alarm connected to that connected system.
Right, right,
So in addition to basement and hallways, each apartment has one enunciator. And then that's
exactly,
connected.
exactly, along with additional smoke alarms,
Right,
Yeah.
right, which are not interconnected.
which are not interconnected.
Right.
My thing is I can't have enough smoke alarms.
Right.
I really have to sleep at night, and I wanna make sure people are safe.
The heat detectors, they own, inside the apartments, they own part of the apartment.
Yeah, they're all hardwired.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's hardwired to the outside
So-
smoke/CO.
In a given apartment, any smoke detector in a bedroom is battery operated and not interconnected.
Right,
Okay, and then there's additional ones in living rooms.
right,
That's also battery,
right,
not interconnected.
right.
Got it.
And then there's the main one that is interconnected in every apartment.
Right.
Okay.
With the basement, you said that it's an outside Vilco unit only entrance. Do the tenants have access to that, or is it,
There is a coin operated washer and dryer down there, yes.
but there's no storage or anything?
No storage, no, it's clutter free. And in fact, we made the appointment, to Saturday, we're gonna be shop vacuuming the whole basement. I like everything, you know, so everything's gonna be shop vac and crystal clear, you know?
And will you have a method in place that periodically checks the basements to make sure that tenants are not storing?
We're there all the
Wasteful
time.
material down there?
You never know, I tell my tenants, so you never know when I'm gonna be here. I might be here 11 o'clock at night, you know?
Right.
I mean, you never know when I'm gonna be there. We're there all the time. We're not absentee landlords by all means. We're around our properties all. In fact, we were there at 6:45 this morning, salting and checking the basement.
Right.
Yeah.
Would it be a very good storage place anyways, that close to the river in the spring, right?
Well, we're up away from the flood zone actually, but yeah, I don't like basements cluttered like that. So, and you know what? You give them this much,
Oh, yeah.
and they take this. It's a very good building. There's no wainscoting up the hallways or in the hallways or anything like that. That's all just plaster and drywall. So, and fire extinguishers on every landing. And like I said, we're gonna get one for each apartment.
This is an aside and totally unrelated to our variance, but just for a point of interest. The site was the home of one of the Clute brothers in Schenectady. And the Clute brothers had a machine shop in the 1800s. And they built a turret for the Monitor in the Merrimack, the ironclad. So that was built in Schenectady by people that owned the site where the building is.
A lot of history in the building.
And the
A lot of
last
history.
item is, I go to the First United Methodist Church in Schenectady, and original meetings for our church were held in the Clute's house. So the building, they weren't held in this building because it didn't get there in 1925. But I thought y'all might be.
So you got a little history lesson about Schenectady. And we're just asking for a variance, you know, we complied in every way we could, and
Yeah.
like I said, we're not absentee landlords, we're good people, I think we went a little beyond. I think we even added a couple of monitors that they didn't even want.
Okay. Great. Yeah, and the whole point here is just, it's warning if there's something in the fire that needs to be warned, that the whole building is warned throughout.
Aware of it, yeah,
Aware of it.
okay.
And, I mean, that's the whole point of having that rated ceiling is to
Right.
delay the spread of that fire.
Exactly.
So,
Right.
okay.
Okay.
Great. Anybody else on the call, code enforcement official or anyone else that has questions or comments? Great. Take that as a no. And anyone, board members, anything else? Okay, let's quickly, this might be pretty quick, so just let's go off the record.
We are on the record.
Thank you. We're going to come out of recess in the matter of petition number 2022-0609. The petitioner is Green Street of Schenectady. And the board has no other further questions for you guys. Any other questions or comments before the board, before we conclude the hearing? Great. Then let's go into conclusion. And again, I think at this point you've heard it go through. We'll go through it and then just pay attention to conditions at the end. So the petition pertains to an existing building of group R2 occupancy, 3 stories in height, type 5A construction. It's located at 219 Green Street, City of Schenectady, County of Schenectady, State of New York. Relief is requested from Chapter 61-B of the Consolidated Laws of New York, Multiple Residence Law, Article 3, Section 30, cellar ceilings. With respect to the petition number 2022-0609, the board makes the following findings. Number one, the building that is the subject of this petition is properly classified under Chapter 6.1-B of the Consolidated Laws of New York, Multiple Residence Law, Article 1, Section 433, as a multiple dwelling. Number two, the subject building is approximately 6,388 square feet in gross area and was originally constructed prior to 1925. Number three, the subject building is required to conform with the provisions of Article 3 of the Multiple Residence Law as provided in Section 25, and that it existed on July 1st, 1952, or was converted to a multiple dwelling after July 1st, 1952, and is not a hotel or similar dwelling subject to Article 4 of the Multiple Residence Law. Number four, Article 3 of Section 30 of the Multiple Residence Law requires in every such dwelling 3 stories or more in height, the ceiling of the cellar or of the lowest story, if there be no cellar, shall be fire retarded or be equipped with a sprinkler system unless such ceiling has already been plastered in the satisfaction of the department. Number five, the lowest story, cellar, ceiling of this multiple family dwelling is not enclosed with fire retardant material and does not contain a sprinkler system. A fire in the cellar could easily spread throughout the building before it is noticed. There is a mechanical system, piping, and electrical wiring along the ceiling of this unoccupied space, cellar, which would make installing a fire retardant ceiling very difficult. Number six, as an alternative to compliance with Article 3, Section 30 of the Multiple Residence Law, the applicant has installed interconnected hardwired smoke and carbon monoxide detection alarms interconnected on each story landing of the dwelling. There's 2 in the basement and 1 in each apartment that would provide early warning in the event of a fire-related emergency. Number 7, the independent alarms. There are independent alarms that are not connected to the interconnected system, are installed in each bedroom of each apartment. Number 8, the existing doors into the apartments and into the basement are self-closing. Number 9, basement is not occupied space by tenants, but is accessible to the tenants. And then number 10, the existing insulation in that ceiling in the cellar must remain in place. This concludes the findings. So therefore, proposed variance will not substantially adversely affect the law's provision for health, safety, and security. Strict compliance would entail practical difficulties, unnecessary hardship that would otherwise be unwarranted because such would be unnecessary in light of alternatives which, without a loss in the level of safety, achieve the intended objective of the law. Wherefore, it is determined that the application for a variance from Chapter 6.1-B of the Consolidated Laws of New York, Multiple Residence Law, Article 3, Section 30B, and is hereby proposed to be granted with the following conditions. Number 1, that the existing interconnected smoke and carbon monoxide detectors are installed and located throughout the building as required by current code as described in the findings. There are 2 that we understand, minimum of 2 connected alarms in the basement. There's interconnected alarm at each story landing, or each story of each landing, and at least 1 interconnected alarm in each apartment. Number 2, that the property owner shall have the city perform a formal test of the installed interconnected alarm system to ensure all alarms are properly communicating and installed at this point. And the system shall be inspected according to minimum court standards. And then number 3, that any entrance door and every door opening into any entrance hall, stair hall, or other public hall connected there within shall be self-closing. And that concludes the conditions. Is there a motion from the board?
I'll motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Coons. I'll now call the board. Those in favor say yea, and those opposed say nay. Ms. Coons?
Yeah.
Mr. Ryder?
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ryder. Mr. Ellis?
Yeah.
Mr. Behringer?
Get me off here.
That's a long day. And that's yeas across the board. Yay for me as well. That's 5 yeas, 0 nays, and the variance is granted. Furthermore, the decision is limited to the specific building and the application before it. as contained within the petition and should not be interpreted to give implied approval of any general plans or specifications presented in support of this application. Thank you very much. This case is now closed. Let's go off the record.
We are on the record. We are on the record.
Thank you. So the fourth petition for the day is petition number 2022-0660. The petitioner is the Blue Group Enterprises, and you are joining us remotely today. If you want to introduce yourself again, if you don't mind, please.
Sure, it's Chris LaFlamme, and I'm the sole member of Blue Group Enterprise. There's no S at the end. LLC, and its charter is to own and manage multifamily units, primarily in the Stockade area of Schenectady.
Great. Thank you again. I'll introduce the case and then we'll open it up for you to explain your case to us.
Sure.
Okay, so the petition pertains to an existing building of Group R2 occupancy, 3 stories in height of type 3B construction, located at 609 Union Street, City of Schenectady, County of Schenectady, State of New York. Relief is requested from Chapter 61-B of the Consolidated Laws of New York, Multiple Residence Law, Article 3, Section 30, cellar ceilings, which states that in every such dwelling, 3 stories or more in height, the ceiling of the cellar or of the lowest story, if there be no cellar, shall be fire retardant or be equipped with a sprinkler system unless such ceiling has already been plastered to the satisfaction of the department. The petitioner requests relief from the requirement that a fire retardant ceiling or sprinkler system be provided in the cellar of the dwelling. Okay, at this time, we will open it up for the petitioner to present their case to the board. Thank you again for being here, and the floor is yours.
Great. Again, thank you all for your attentiveness to this matter. I purchased this building in 2020. I think it was February. So I've been up to probably half a dozen inspections with city code enforcement. I'm very interested in maintaining safety and being to code as much as I can. I do run the challenge of what most historic buildings have, and that's pre-existing infrastructure. For the past 3 years, it has not been brought to my attention that there was a potential code violation, and I think it was probably mostly due to the fact that the basement mechanical area has always been sheetrocked. It's got 3M caulk sealant around the seams, and that's always presented very well. When I bought it, I installed Wi-Fi networked smoke and carbon monoxide detectors and installed them on each level, including in the mechanical room in the basement. The issue that we're here for is the rest of the basement, which is primarily vacant storage for some tools and parts that I use in these old buildings. They're not sheetrocked. It's all open, exposed joists, and a whole lot of plumbing, old plumbing, new plumbing, radiant heat, and in particular, the modifications that are made for the first floor mixed-use commercial space. But what I want to leave the board with an understanding of is I would probably just sheetrock the whole basement, although it would be very, very difficult and it would be nearly impossible. But the biggest resistance I have is that this section of Union Street has been through a revitalization attempt, and it's been pretty nice. All the exterior facades have been improved, and some money from Metroplex. And it has definitely come a long way over the past 10, 15 years. The problem is it still hasn't settled in its future look. There's been changing tenants. There's Beer Abbey that was open for 4 or 5 years and that closed down. Murata's was next door. That became rare. There was a yoga facility in my building before the current tenant. So my point is, there's still a lot of changes, and to change a tenant in this mixed-use space without access to that ceiling would be very challenging. And I expect that maybe that's a possibility in the near future. So my request is to get a variance based on my situation. And I'm hoping that my Wi-Fi fire detectors that are located in each level, in addition to the standard things that I've overheard mentioned that you guys have responded in, as I would expect, and that is auto-closing doors for every apartment, additional smokes and carbon dioxide detectors in each apartment, fire escapes that are metal, that each apartment has a second egress to, and fire extinguishers on each level. So I have all of those things as well.
Okay. Thank you for describing that. Any questions?
Are the interconnected detectors you have now are where in the building? Are they in
They are
in
on
every, yeah.
Yeah, they're good. I'll anticipate your question. They're on each level in the main hallways, including the basement. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there are some that are Wi-Fi connected in apartments, but not every apartment.
So there's currently one in the basement?
There's one Wi-Fi interconnected smoke and carbon monoxide in the mechanical room.
What is on the storage side for a fire alarm? Anything? Smoke?
Yeah, there's a smoke detector that's hardwired with battery. Also, there's a few of those throughout the building, and there's one in that sheetrock or non-mechanical space in the basement.
But not interconnected though, right? Just hardwired. Right.
That's correct.
So you said that some of the apartments have an interconnected device in them, but not all?
Correct.
So is this tied into the ones in the hallway? Or is this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Again, via Wi-Fi.
Right, understood. Which is actually, just to be clear, I think we had this discussion prior, it's not really Wi-Fi, right? It's like a radio frequency, like you don't need to have Wi-Fi,
That's true.
right? Is that correct?
It's
Yeah, they
wireless.
communicate with each
Wireless, right, yeah. So, okay. So of the 5 apartments, how many are part of this interconnected system?
2 of them.
2?
Yeah, 2 of them. I think one on each floor. I just by matter of I was thinking I was being oversafe. I had them participate in the main hallways of the building network.
And where are the apartments located? So is the commercial space on the entire first floor and all the apartments are on the second and third?
That's correct.
Okay. Does the commercial space have any, are they interconnected with the system as well, or no?
There's a Wi-Fi, there's a wireless smoke and carbon within the commercial space too.
Okay.
or I'll say it's on that level, on that, on that level, because commercial space might be, actual retail, there's actually some back area space and kitchen back there, but just to clarify, on each level, there's a wireless smoking carbon.
But I mean, I guess you said there was one on each level of the hallway, so I assume that means there's a first floor entrance hallway. So I'm asking, is there another device within the rental commercial space?
That I don't think there is.
Okay.
But I'm open to suggestions, of course.
Yeah, I can tell you, just hearing where we're probably there's gonna be a condition where we probably have to expand your interconnected system, your current wireless system. I don't know if you can do that with the existing system that you have in place, or that means purchasing a whole new system that can be expanded. But at least my feeling is that we might ask, that might be one thing, is that we have to expand where these interconnected alarms are compared to where they currently are.
Yeah.
Right, we just try to see what the situation is as it stands,
Yep, understood.
Just curious, is there a second means of egress from the upper levels?
Yeah, there are a few metal fire escape routes around the building, resulting in all of the units having a second egress.
There's quite a bit of storage in the basement. I see. Are there highly combustible materials that potentially or are stored under there? I see paint cans, but
Yeah, there would, there's nothing that's gas, there's no gases or flammable working materials that are stored other than paint. But yeah, there's wood down there. There's some old doors that were all removed when they expanded the mixed use on the first floor, that they're reluctant to get rid of. And then there's also just some wood trim and things that have been used and taken down but kept. And then tools. There is a freezer that's down there as well.
Do the tenants have access to that basement?
They do through the retail store. But they don't. There's occasionally a request for a bike. So there might be a bike request that seasonally gets put in the basement, depends on what I have for a tenant. But no, they generally don't go down there, except the retail tenant goes down there for that backup storage, frozen storage. But there is. I want to make sure we're clear. There's cardboard and there's wood. It's not unsafe to pass, but it's there's a lot of doors down there, and there's some wood and cardboard that gets recycled, and I take that out in a couple of weeks.
About how much of the basement is in the enclosed mechanical room? Is it like about a quarter of the basement, or, just approximately?
That's a good question. I'd say a sixth of the basement,
Okay.
maybe.
All right, so most of it is wide open
Yes.
storage, yeah.
Well, it's not. Yeah, it's storage for me. And just in case it gets missed, there is not an automatic closing door. As you go down the stairs to the basement, there's a door, but it doesn't automatically close. And I was going to add that after listening to this call, it dawned on me that that door doesn't automatically close.
From the retail space.
Yeah, exactly. But the doors to the mechanical room are both metal and they both automatically close. But that's correct. When you go down the stairs from the retail space, there's a door, but it doesn't automatically close.
Is access to the basement only through the retail space, or is there like an outside door as well?
It's only through the retail space.
I think I got the lay of the land.
It's
Is the door between the basement and the retail space, the door at the top of the stairs, is that a wood door or a metal door? Is it fire rated?
good question. It's actually at the bottom of the stairs.
Oh, it's at the bottom of the stairs, okay.
Yep, and it's wood.
Okay.
I don't have anything else. Anybody else? Any other questions? Comments? Anybody else on the call, a code enforcement official, or anybody else that would like to make a question or make a comment? Okay, great. So then at this time, we're gonna go into deliberation. Mr. On this line, and we'll come back when we're ready to conclude the case. So hang tight, we'll be back. Please go off the record.
We're on the record.
Thank you. We're coming out of recess in the matter of petition number 2022-0660. The petitioner is Mr. Laflume from the Blue Group Enterprise. Mr. Laflume, any other questions or comments for the board? We have none for you, I don't believe. Anything in your head?
No, it's Laflamme. We're going to meet again.
I'm sorry, Laflume. I'm not saying it right. I apologize.
That's okay. That's all right. And I want to make it more safe than it is, but it's very cost prohibitive and not functional because of the mixed use element of the building and the changes that will likely need to be made. So I'm open to what the response of the board is.
Okay. So just to give you a brief before I get right into it, it's going to sound a little different than the prior two cases that you just heard, mainly because these are different circumstances. That had a hardwired system. This is going to be all wireless. So we are going to go and I'll describe the conditions in more detail, but we're going to require the wireless system, interconnected alarms throughout the building, including the basement and the first floor into and each space, each retail commercial space, as well as wherever code requires an alarm in the residential spaces, those would also have to be a part of the interconnected system. So that means that either expanding upon the system that you've already installed or removing that system and installing a whole new system that is interconnected throughout.
Just to confirm what you said, you're saying every detection device has to be wirelessly interconnected?
That's correct. Every detection device that's required by code would have to be a part of the interconnected system. In this case, And I'll tell you and describe the little bit difference here is that we do have that retail, mercantile type space. So it's a mixed use building versus the prior ones that you've heard today are residential only. So because of that mixed use, we want to make sure that that detection system is provided throughout the building. So all the alarms are connected to one another.
Okay, and it's not sufficient enough to have a wirelessly connected device in every unit. One.
That's correct. That's correct. We're going to make sure that everything's connected. And that's a lot of it, just so you know, so you're aware, that's also, it's ease for inspection as well. Because that way when an inspector, we are going to require annual inspections because these are wireless alarms. Not annual, but they will be, we'll explain the expansion process, but they will need to be inspected periodically, and it also helps with ease inspection, so you know that all the alarms that are in that building are connected to part of that same system.
So that just to discuss it further, that will potentially eliminate some devices I have that are hardwired. And I guess maybe my request to the board would be to reconsider every device, because what I'll end up doing is adding a Wi-Fi device every level hallway, every required area. But I'd also keep the hardwired ones that are not Wi-Fi connected, for the benefit of it being hardwired. In other words, you can't buy a hardwired Wi-Fi networked smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector, as far as I'm aware of.
That's probably accurate, and yes, I think that would be, I mean, it feels a little bit maybe extreme, but that is our approach in order to get around having to rate that ceiling in the basement.
So, just to confirm, would the board consider every area be covered with a Wi-Fi interconnected detector, but that I don't have to replace every existing fire defense device with a Wi-Fi? I hope I'm articulating the difference.
It was the previous wireless system.
It's just the previous wireless system that it's either we expand upon that existing system or we remove that just the wireless system that's already installed and install a new system that covers the areas that we're describing. The existing hardware can remain.
Are we understanding it correctly? So are there only hardwired devices? I wrote down that there's hardwired but not interconnected devices or a device in the storage side of the basement.
There are hardwired, non-wireless, hardwired detectors in different areas. When the apartments were redone, contractor might have installed a hardwired smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector, but it's not interconnected. It might be interconnected to another one in that unit, but not throughout the building.
Right.
But I understand your point.
Want them interconnected.
I would replace the Wi-Fi, or I'm sorry, I would replace my wireless networked devices with a new system, or add to that existing system to have one in each bedroom and one in each living room and one of each hallway throughout the building, which is the code of this city. And then also in the basement. Yeah.
That's
I
correct.
could do that, but I would also have other devices that were not Wi-Fi.
That's
right.
correct.
So
Yes.
So there are some apartments that have hardwired smoke detectors, but they're not interconnected with each other within the apartment at this time. Or they are.
There's probably, out of the 5 units, I do think there's 1 or 2 that have all their smoke detectors interconnected, hardwired.
Hardwired.
But only within the unit, not
And then unit, not throughout the building.
Right.
Okay.
We want
So-
interconnection in the building.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm envisioning, I'm adding 2 devices to each of the 5 units. A device in the retail space, and then a device within the mechanic room, and also a device in the open basement. So that's what I'm envisioning. You want Wi-Fi, you want new wireless system in every livable space and storage space that also meets code. Also, in addition to that, have some other detectors that I'm not going to pull out because they're hardwired.
That's the question, right?
Yeah, that's the question, whether.
Is that
I think that's why, I mean, we want an interconnected building.
right?
We don't want any confusion between floor to floor and the mixed-use space, the retail, commercial space below. I think that's,
Well, I can commit to you that I won't have any confusion over that. And I understand the principle of why you're looking for Wi-Fi throughout. But yeah, the inspector might say, okay, this is interesting. You've got a Wi-Fi device in the living room, but you also have another hardwired device in the bedroom.
Right.
And
It's just,
and it's not uncommon for an inspector to see that there's additional devices than what's required. And everyone in the Schenectady team knows what's likely interconnected and also what's hardwired. This is the difficult part, is it's so expensive to rewire a building like this with the historic detail and such. That's my challenge. And I could just put a cap on that hardwired device, or research whether I could find a wireless hardwired option that I could replace in those areas where there is a hard wire. But if I can't, then I just want to understand that this board is telling me to remove hardwired detectors in the effort to have them all interconnected.
That is,
that's what we were intending.
yeah,
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah. The interconnection is more important than the hardwiring at this point.
Right.
Yeah,
All
and that's-
hardwiring is doing is giving him power. It's not helping with early notification at all.
Right.
Interconnection is where we're improving the life safety in the building.
That is the point right there, is that it's improving
Early
early detection across the building, and that's where the interconnection. It feels strange to want to disconnect a hardwired and put a battery operated in, but you'll notice in one of the conditions, there are mandatory inspections for those alarms to make sure they are functioning as intended and connected and communicating as intended.
Yeah, no, I agree with it was very concise, but I forgot the woman's name to my far right. But there is a small difference, meaning I understand the driven intention is interconnection. I get that. But you do want me to remove the ones that are not, even though they do add additional protection.
I don't know.
Yes, because it gives a false sense of interconnection if people see those.
Yeah.
But isn't that true for every building? Like, in other words, if I wasn't, I'm just trying to understand now from a broader perspective. If you don't have a fire suppression system, a sprinkler system, and the code in the historic districts require a wireless on each level, it's not required that it's in every space, and that it's just required on every level, like in Schenectady. So I'm just saying that there's many instances I can think of in historic buildings where every floor has got an interconnected detector, but not throughout every unit and every floor, just to let the floor know that there's a fire somewhere else in the building. In these old 1700, 1800 mansions.
Well, that's what the
Right.
system is going for.
Right, because the relief sought is because of that, not having that fire protection in the basement. So it's the early notification.
Okay, fair enough. Yep. Otherwise, I could sheetrock the whole basement.
Right.
Yes.
Fair enough. All right, yeah. So I'll forego the hardwired. I'll look in to see what I can get. Honestly, with the Wi-Fi, there may be some options I'm not aware of, or with the wireless.
And then you want the door.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll go through the conditions. The other one, so within the conditions, we'll describe at least a minimum number of detectors. For example, the basement, we're gonna say give us 3 minimum in the basement with 1 minimum in the mechanical space, and this is related to the interconnected devices. At the first floor, a minimum of 2 total at the first floor with a minimum of 1 in each commercial space. And then the rest within the residential area is exactly how we describe it.
Do you also require one in the hallway on each level, or is it okay just to have them within the units?
That's why
Where-
on the first floor, 2, 1 in the commercial space. If that space gets split, you're gonna have 1 in each space.
One in each
and then
commercial
the common space. And then the property maintenance code is gonna require 1 in the common space on the 3rd floor where the dwelling units are, or the 2nd floor and the 3rd.
Yeah, all of them. To your point, right? Every common
Correct.
space.
Every
Yes.
Common space, yeah.
And every unit.
Yep.
Yeah.
So 1 in mechanical room in the basement, plus, because of the size, I assume you're saying plus 3 or plus 2.
3 total, 1 minimum mechanical, so it'd be
Got it.
2
got
plus.
it. Got it. Thank you. And then 2 on the first floor, or hold on. You want 1 in the common. You want 1 per commercial space. In my instance, it is just 1 tenant.
Right.
But in the future, if that changes, then you'll
Fair
have to
enough.
have 1.
Yes.
Yeah, that
If it
makes
gets
total sense.
subdivided.
If it,
Yep, got it.
And then the other condition, all the rest of these has to do with inspection of those alarms. But the last one you should be aware of is the
Metal door.
rating the stairwell into the basement. So we're gonna need that access into the basement be fire rated, and there's 2 ways to achieve that. One of 2 ways would have to be chosen, either fire rated stairwell and a self-closing fire rated door at the bottom, or a fire rated door installed at the top of the stair.
But the wall that separates the stair from the first floor tenant would also have to be fire rated. You want the entire stair enclosed.
So that whole stairwell will.
Have to be fire rated.
And fire rated, yes.
So just to repeat.
And that's, again, to control the fire.
Yeah, so you would want fire rated. So if I put a fire rated door at the bottom of the stairs, so that theoretically fire can't raise to the 2nd floor, that's acceptable?
Yes. I guess based on what you currently have, is there a fire rating up those stairs?
Well,
On the walls.
Up those stairs on the walls, it is all sheetrocked. Yep, the entire.
Yes, okay, so,
Yep.
yes.
So if I put a door at the
for-
bottom, it's metal.
we're at the bottom.
Fire rated door would suffice, yeah, probably be the easiest.
Yep, self-closing, okay. Got it. And then just to continue with the detectors, I got the 3 total in basement, 2 on the first floor or more, depending on the number of commercial tenants. 1 on each hallway floor. And then of course it's whatever the city requires per unit, right? It's 1 in the
Correct.
bedroom. So it's,
correct?
since you guys are experts, it is a smoke and carbon, 1 per apartment, and then 1 additional in each one smoke in each bedroom.
Correct. Right.
Theoretically, you have to have a carbon within 30 feet of a bedroom door. So if they're long units, you might have to move it closer to where the bedroom space is.
Is it 30 feet?
15? Well,
15.
I think you're right. I think for some reason 15 comes to mind.
I think it's
15 usually works if you're trying to cover a whole floor. I just disconnected. Whatever it is per code, it's
Yeah.
either
Fair
yeah,
enough.
where it is listed by.
One carbon within the 15 feet of bedroom plus a smoke in the bedroom.
Right, so typically each bedroom would have a smoke, and then usually there's a combo unit in the hall outside the bedroom grouping.
Yeah.
You know, if the bedrooms are in two different locations, like there's a front bedroom and a rear bedroom, then you need to provide another, you know, carbon or smoke, or definitely smoke outside, you know, the bedrooms that are separated from the others, you know.
Yeah. All right, got it.
You'll get this formally in the mail, of course, with these conditions listed. So if there's any
Yep.
further questions after you get that, you can definitely direct those to the Department of State to be answered, or even the city as well, right?
Will the city be the determining factor of completion and time frame, or is the Department of State?
The city will get they'll get the notice of variance, a formal notice, and then it'll be working with the city as far as timeline on when to
Okay.
install all the proper things.
And just out of
Variance.
curiosity, if I installed a sprinkler system in the basement, do I avoid this networked detector requirement?
Good question.
It's not a sprinkler system only in the basement, right?
It
It's
would
a
have to be
sprinkler
the-
system in the whole
it'd have to
building.
be
I
the
was gonna say,
entire.
what does
Have
the
to be the
MRL say?
entire-
Is it for
Shall
the
be
entire
part of
building?
the lowest
I
tier.
actually believe it's just the basement because you're preventing the fire from spreading from the basement up. And my experience has been that a sprinkler system in the hallways would prevent a requirement for a second egress. So this house has a second egress, so I don't think it would be anywhere other than the first basement room.
I know.
But that also doesn't take care of anything that might be into the retail space and notifying the floors above. So again,
I feel like it could be included either way.
So you're also trying to protect against a fire in the retail space, which is all fire rated.
the retail space is all fire rated, is that what you said?
Correct. It's all sheetrocked and developed space. Yeah. I'm not trying to be difficult, but I am wondering if someone on this board would say, yeah, if you had a fire suppression system in the basement, that would be far preferred. If it's not, then that's fine. But I would look into it. That was far preferred.
Dan, are you online? Are you?
Yeah, and if I could jump in, the way the MRL reads, it appears that you have the option of sprinklering the basement rather than fire rating the ceiling. So, but, when the applications are submitted, we always, try to encourage you to comply with the code rather than come before the board. So once you've come to the board, you've already sort of said to us that you're not able to do those other things. That's why we get into having to, provide additional conditions. So, in theory, if the board issued the variance and you chose to fire rate, well, let's just say right now, if you decide that you're going to do a sprinkler system instead of what you've come to the board for, then I guess you would have to withdraw your petition.
Yeah, fair enough. And well, these detectors have gotten more expensive, and I don't know how much it's going to cost to buy all these. But I was just asking the question before. I was pretty adamant that I would just go for the variance, and I think that's probably where I'm going to end up. I just thought I'd ask the question about the fire suppression with water. All right, good. Thank you.
Chairman, does that answer the question?
I believe so, yes. Thanks, Jan.
Okay.
Anybody else with any other questions? Yes. Okay, we're going to conclude the hearing. I'll go through it, and then we'll take our vote. So the petition pertains to an existing mixed-use building of Group M occupancy on the first floor and R2 occupancy at the upper floors. It's a total of 3 stories in height of type 3B construction located at 609 Union Street, City of Schenectady, County of Schenectady, State of New York. Petitioner is requesting relief from Chapter 6.1-B of the Consolidated Laws in New York, Multiple Residence Law, Article 3, Section 30, cellar ceilings, which states that in every such dwelling 3 stories or more in height, the ceiling of the cellar or of the lowest story be, if there be no cellar, shall be fire retarded or be equipped with a sprinkler system, unless such ceiling has already been plastered to the satisfaction of the department. With respect to the petition number 2022-0660, the board makes the following findings. Number 1, the building that is the subject of this petition is properly classified under Chapter 6.1-B of the Consolidated Laws of New York, Multiple Residence Law, Article 1, Section 433 as a multiple dwelling. Number 2, this subject building is approximately 7,219 square feet in gross area and was originally constructed in 1900. Number 3, the subject building is required to conform with the provisions of Article 3 of the Multiple Residence Law as provided in Section 25, in that it existed on July 1st, 1952, or was converted to a multiple dwelling after July 1st, 1952, and is not a hotel or similar dwelling subject to Article 4 of the Multiple Residence Law. Number 4, Article 3, Section 30 of the Multiple Residence Law requires in every such dwelling 3 stories or more in height, the ceiling of the cellar or of the lowest story, if there be no cellar, shall be fire retarded or be equipped with a sprinkler system, unless such ceiling has already been plastered to the satisfaction of the department. Number 5, the lowest story cellar ceiling of this multiple family dwelling is not enclosed with fire retardant material and does not contain a sprinkler system. A fire in the cellar could easily spread throughout the building before it is noticed. There is a mechanical system piping and electrical wiring along the ceiling of this unoccupied cellar, which would make installing a fire retardant ceiling very difficult. Number 6, as an alternative to compliance with Article 3, Section 30 of the Multiple Residence Law, the applicant wishes to install battery-powered wireless smoke and carbon monoxide detection alarms interconnected to signaling devices on each story of the dwelling that would provide early warning in the event of a fire-related emergency. Number 7, access to the basement is through the retail space, commercial space only. Number 8, the door into the basement currently is not self-closing and is installed at the bottom of the stairs. It is a wooden door. That concludes the findings. The board finds that in the case before it, the proposed variance will not substantially adversely affect the law's provisions for health, safety, and security. Strict compliance would entail practical difficulties, unnecessary hardship, or would otherwise be unwarranted because such would be unnecessary in light of alternatives which, without a loss in level of safety, achieve the intended objective of the law. Wherefore it is determined that the application for a variance from Chapter 6(1)(b) of the Consolidated Laws of New York, Multiple Residence Law, Article 3, Section 30(b) and is hereby proposed to be granted with the following conditions. Number 1, that wireless interconnected smoke and carbon monoxide detectors shall be installed and located throughout the building as required by current code as per the manufacturer's installation instructions at the following locations at a minimum. In the basement, be a minimum of 3 units with a minimum of 1 in mechanical space. At the first floor is a minimum of 2 units with a minimum of 1 in each commercial space. And then at the second and third floors, located detectors according to current code with a minimum of 1 in each dwelling unit. Condition number 2, that the existing battery-operated smoke and carbon monoxide detectors that they be removed and replaced with interconnected devices required in the conditions, or the current wireless system may be expanded upon to achieve the required locations. If the current system is not expandable and a new system is to be installed to meet the conditions, the current wireless system must be removed. Number 3, the property owner shall hire a third-party independent code certified inspection agency to test the above required interconnected wireless alarm system at its initial installation and annually thereafter, at a minimum, and shall submit inspection results to the City of Schenectady Building Department. Inspection reports shall also be left on site and be readily available for inspection. Number 4, that all the above noted alarms described in the conditions shall be interconnected together and may be wireless interconnected devices. And number 5, that any entrance door and every door opening into an entrance hall, stair hall, or other public hall connected therewithin shall be self-closing. That the access into the basement can be fire rated and achieved by one of the following ways. Have a fire rated stairwell and self-closing fire rated door installed at the bottom. Also have a fire rated stairwell, but with a self-closing door installed at the top of the stairs. One of those 2 options. That concludes the conditions. Is there a motion from the board? Mr. Berenger makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Ellis, thank you. And we will poll the board now. We'll start around. Ms. Coombs?
Aye.
Mr. Ellis?
Yay.
Ms. Ryder?
Yay.
Mr. Berenger?
Yay.
And I also vote yay. That's 5 yeas, 0 nays, and the variance is now granted. Furthermore, this decision is limited to the specific building and the application before it, as contained within the petition, and should not be interpreted to give implied approval of any general plans or specifications presented in support of this application. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being on the call. Let's go off the record.
Off the record.